Obviously, I mean, I guess Llewyn's a fairly abrasive character in a lot of ways. What was it that kind of drew you to him and his struggle?
I was interested in embracing the abrasiveness, and really understanding how to embody that. And so I thought a lot about the comedy of resilience, of why that's funny. And I thought of, people like Buster Keaton, who always has this impassive face. It's kind of slightly melancholic face, even though all this crazy stuff's happening around him. So in our version, instead of buildings falling down or near-death experiences, it's the music. That's the kind of major feat, and that's your key into him.
And your character, I mean, she is, like many of the characters in the film, she's pretty abrasive. I mean, was that, I guess that's an interesting challenge for you, like you say, because that's not the sort of person you've typically played.
Yeah, no, that was really fun, and quite kind of, it was the most fun I've had doing something in a really long time. It was really, when you get writing that's that good, it tells you exactly what you're meant to do, but within that you can kind of mess around. And we had a scene in Washington Square Park where we were walking through and I'm just sort of raging at him. And we shot that at like 7 in the morning on a Tuesday in New York, and there were just sort of tourists and people walking around, and I'm like screaming swear words at the top of my lungs. And I think there are some takes in there where I went like way too far, and then they kind of rein you in, but I loved it. It was great.
How much was that improv and how much were you allowed to just...
No, that's totally scripted. I think I added like one more expletive, but I think on the majority of it was just exactly as written, but they just filled it with trash.
Well, I mean, and I guess one of the things that's interesting about it is that it's almost a film about it's about a lot of things, but it's about kind of loss, and he's grieving, but in a very subtle way. I mean, how much was that sort of informing your performance?
Yeah, very much so. There's the ghost of his partner that's haunting him the whole time, but he internalizes everything, and so that was the challenge to really feel all these things, all these tiny tragedies, but make them completely internal, and just have faith that the context of the film and those moments when you see him perform, that would be the bridge to the audience. It's not going to be from him being warm or charismatic or any of this stuff, or even having a cathartic moment where he cries or any of that. Which is the more traditional. You want to see your hero do those things, but that's always withheld. The only catharsis is his music.
In this, as in Shame, I guess New York is very much an essential part of the film, but it's at a completely different period. I wondered how the two experiences compared.
Shame was sort of interesting because the majority of my work was night shoots, so I would get up at 5 in the afternoon and go to work and shoot all night and then get home at 5 in the morning. So it was sort of surreal and odd, and I only really saw the evenings in New York. I'd lived there for a bit, so and it was obviously that film was so dark and strange. This one felt a lot sort of heartier in a way, and we were right there in Greenwich Village, and it was really cold, and yeah, it was great. We were surrounded by real musicians, and they just, in the way that it does when you watch the film and it feels so effortlessly real, we really did feel like that when we were filming it.
Did you audition for the Coens in person, or was that a tape?
No, it was a tape.
Okay, so what was your first meeting?
I first met them in the studio in the week of sort of music rehearsals that we did. But I spoke to them on the phone before my audition, and they kind of just said, I don't even remember, they were just like, yeah, just do it, just do whatever. Like, they're so kind of casual, and that's something that's so brilliant about them, because you watch their films and you think, gosh, they're so intelligent, they're clearly like geniuses, and they are, but they don't kind of put that on you when you're around them. So you think they're going to be really intense, serious people, and you say, like, someone said to Ethan in Cannes, like, what's the movie about? And he was like, oh, I never know what the movie's about. The movie is the movie.
They're very warm. They're like quick to talk about, thoughts on directing and their experiences. Oh, when I worked with Paul Newman, blah, 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 these great stories, and they're just very open and warm, which is, you'd think there'd be some sort of pretense there or something, but no, it was beautiful. It was a beautiful experience.